Deep in the ancient dust of history, long before the empires of today were even drawn on a map, there existed a city of gold and shadows. Babylon. It was a place where the rivers Euphrates and Tigris met, a civilization of staggering intellect and terrifying arrogance. But beneath the hanging gardens and the towering ziggurats, a different kind of power was brewing. It wasn't the power of armies or swords. It was a whisper in the dark, a forbidden knowledge that promised to bend reality itself to the will of man. This was the dawn of Sihr, of black magic, and it was here, in this hub of vice and curiosity, that the heavens decided to send a test unlike any other. Two figures descended not to save the people from a tyrant, but to test the very depths of their souls. Their names were Harut and Marut. But why? Why would the most merciful send angels to teach something as destructive as magic? To understand this mystery, we cannot just look at the angels. We have to look at the world that necessitated their arrival. It was a time of confusion, a time when the lines between miracle and magic were being blurred by the enemies of truth. The devils, the shayateen, had infiltrated the societies of men, spreading a malicious lie that would echo through centuries. They looked at the magnificent kingdom of Prophet Sulaiman, a kingdom where the wind obeyed his command, where the jinn worked as builders and divers, where birds carried his messages across nations. The devils whispered to the people that this was not the power of God. They claimed Suleiman was not a prophet but a sorcerer. They said, "Look at his control. No mortal can do this. He must be using the dark arts." They wanted to strip the holiness from the miracles of Allah and replace it with the filth of sorcery. They buried books of magic under the very throne of Suleiman to frame him after his death, trying to convince the world that the greatest king was merely the greatest magician. This was the crisis of faith that threatened to consume humanity. If the people believed that prophets were just wizards, then the message of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, would be lost. If miracles were just spells, then guidance was nothing more than a trick. To shatter this lie, Allah needed to show humanity the clear, undeniable difference between the divine miracle and the devilish deception. And for that, he chose a specific trial for the people of Babylon. He sent down two angels, Harut and Marut. They did not come as messengers with a new book, nor did they come as warriors to fight a war. They came as a fitna, a trial. They were sent to the heart of Babylon, a city obsessed with astrology and the unseen, to offer the people exactly what they thought they wanted, but with a condition that would seal their fate. Imagine the scene as these two beings took their place in the city. They were not hiding in caves. They were accessible. The people of Babylon, hungry for power and influence, flocked to them. Rumors spread through the marketplaces and the palaces that there were two strangers who held the keys to the unseen. Men who wanted to control their rivals. Women who wanted to enslave the hearts of men, the greedy, the envious, and the desperate. They all lined up. But Harut and Marut were not like the devils who taught magic freely to corrupt the earth. These angels had a divine instruction, a script they could not deviate from. Whenever a person approached them, eyes wide with the desire for power, begging to learn the secret words and the dark rituals, the angels would stop them cold. They would look the human in the eye and deliver a warning that should have shaken them to their core. They would say, "We are only a trial, so do not disbelieve." Think about the weight of those words. They were handing the weapon to the human but warning them that pulling the trigger meant spiritual suicide. It was the ultimate test of free will. Allah was giving the people of Babylon a choice that was as sharp as a razor. You can have this knowledge, you can learn how to manipulate the world around you, but the cost is your relationship with your Creator. To learn this magic was to step out of the light of Iman and into the darkness of Kufr. It was a transaction, your soul, for a fleeting moment of control. Yet, despite this terrifying warning, despite the angels telling them clearly that this path led to destruction, the people did not turn back. The thirst for power was too strong. They looked at the warning and ignored it, choosing the immediate gratification of the dunyas over the eternal promise of the Akhirah. The Quran tells us specifically what these people sought to learn. They didn't just want to pull rabbits out of hats or perform illusions. They wanted something far more insidious. They learned from them that by which they call separation between a man and his wife. This detail is chilling. Of all the things magic could do, summoning wealth, controlling weather, inflicting pain, Allah highlights the destruction of the family unit. Why? Because the family is the building block of society. If you destroy the bond between husband and wife, you destroy the home. If you destroy the home, you destroy the community. The devils knew that the fastest way to corrupt humanity was not to burn down their cities, but to break their hearts and sever their ties of kinship. The magic taught in Babylon was designed to breed hatred where there was love, suspicion where there was trust. The people of Babylon would sit before Harut and Marut, listening to the incantations, memorizing the knots and the blows, fully aware that they were trading their hereafter for the ability to ruin a ruin, marriage. It reveals the dark state of the human heart when it is stripped of the fear of God. They preferred to see their neighbors suffer rather than see themselves saved. And the tragedy is that they believed this power was absolute. They thought that once they learned these spells, they would become masters of destiny. But Allah, in His infinite wisdom, reminds us of the reality they forgot. They could not harm anyone with it except by Allah's permission. The magician thinks he is a god, but he is merely a tool. The spell has no power unless the Lord of Power allows it to pass. It is a leash that the magician thinks he holds, but the leash is actually around his own neck. As the knowledge of Harut and Marut spread through the veins of Babylon, the distinction became clear for those who had eyes to see. The miracles of the prophets brought life, unity, and connection to the Creator. The magic of Babylon brought division, suspicion, and chaos. The lie of the devils was exposed. Sulaiman was not a magician. He was a master of the natural world by the grace of God. The magicians were slaves to their own rituals, begging spirits for scraps of power, while the prophet commanded the wind by the will of the King of Kings. The trial of Babylon was a mirror held up to humanity. It showed that when given the choice between difficult truth and easy power, many will choose the power, even if it burns them. But the story does not end in Babylon. The echoes of what was taught there, the legacy of Harut and Marut, did not vanish into the dust. It traveled. It seeped into the cultures of the world, morphing and changing, but always keeping that core promise of forbidden control. The scholars of the early generations debated the nature of these angels. Were they punished? Did they fall? Or were they simply obedient servants carrying out a harsh duty? The Israelites had their own twisted versions of this story. Legends of fallen angels named Shamhazai and Azael, who were seduced by women and hung by their feet in wells. But Islam came to clean the narrative. Angels in Islam do not sin. They do not have the nafs, the desire, that drags a human down. Harut and Marut did not fall from grace. They were the instruments of the test. They were the cold, impartial scale upon which the hearts of the Babylonians were weighed. They did exactly what they were commanded to do. They offered the choice, gave the warning, and let the human being decide his own fate. It is a terrifying realization that sometimes Allah punishes a people, not by taking away their blessings, but by giving them exactly what they ask for, knowing it will destroy them. The poison that was brewed in Babylon did not stay in Babylon. Like a dark river flowing underground, the knowledge of Harut and Marut seeped out of the city gates and infected the surrounding lands. It traveled in the whispers of travelers, in the hidden scrolls of the corrupt, and in the oral traditions of those who preferred the quick path of sorcery over the patient path of prayer. Centuries turned into millennia, and the empires of Babylon turned to dust, but the lie remained. It survived because the human desire for control is timeless. The devil played the long game. He knew that as long as people believed power could be snatched rather than earned, his trap would remain full. And so, the story of the two angels and the slander against Prophet Sulaiman traveled across time, arriving at a new destination, the city of Yathrib, later known as Medina, during the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. In Medina, there lived Jewish tribes who had preserved the ancient scriptures, but mixed within their holy books were the folk tales and corruptions of the past. They held onto the secrets of the occult, believing that this secret knowledge made them superior to the illiterate Arabs around them. When the Prophet Muhammad came to them reciting the Quran, speaking of Sulaiman as a noble prophet of Allah, a man of justice and divine favor, the scholars of the people of the book scoffed. They looked at each other with knowing glances and mocked him. They said, "Look at Muhammad. He confuses truth with falsehood. He mentions Solomon among the prophets, but Solomon was nothing more than a powerful wizard. He rode the wind not because God loved him, but because he knew the incantations." This was the moment the ancient lie of Babylon tried to strangle the new light of Islam. The rabbis and the sorcerers of Medina were using the very test sent to Babylon, the test of magic, as a weapon against the final messenger. They were proud of their hidden knowledge, boasting that they possessed the legacy of the great kingdom of Israel, which they attributed to sorcery. They challenged the prophet, asking him about the nature of the spirit, the stories of the ancients, trying to trip him up. But they did not realize that the revelation coming to Muhammad was not from the books of men, but from the preserved tablet in the heavens. Allah did not leave his messenger defenseless against these accusations. He sent down the verses in Surah Al-Baqarah, the longest chapter of the Quran, to set the record straight once and for all. The revelation hit Medina like a thunderbolt. It stripped away the centuries of lies that had accumulated around the name of Sulaiman. Allah declared explicitly, Sulaiman did not disbelieve, but the devils disbelieved, teaching people magic and that which was revealed to the two angels at Babylon, Harut and Marut. In one sweeping statement, the Quran exonerated the Prophet Sulaiman, exposing the source of the corruption. It shifted the blame back to where it belonged, on the rebellious shayateen and the weak-willed humans who followed them. It was a vindication of history. The Quran clarified that the power of Sulaiman was a miracle, mujiza, a gift that could not be learned or taught, whereas the magic of Babylon was a craft, sihr, a dirty trade that could be studied but only brought ruin. But the Quran went deeper. It didn't just correct the history, it exposed the psychology of those who practiced magic. It laid bare the terrible transaction they had made. The verse continues, describing those who bought this magic, and they certainly knew that whoever purchased it would have no share in the hereafter. The word purchased is significant. It implies a trade, a business deal. The sorcerer is a merchant, but he is the most foolish merchant in existence. He trades the infinite ocean of the hereafter for a drop of water in this life. He trades the face of Allah for the servitude of a jinn. The Quran calls this a wretched price. It is a moment of profound pity for the practitioner of magic. They think they are gaining power, but they are actually selling themselves into slavery. Slavery to the devil, slavery to their own egos, and slavery to the fire. And what was the result of this purchase? What did they actually gain? Misery. The verse highlights that they learned what harms them and does not benefit them. This is the paradox of evil. We often assume that evil people are happy, that they are enjoying the fruits of their sin. But the Quran tells us the opposite. The magician lives a life of paranoia and fear. To maintain his contract with the devils, he must degrade himself. He must perform acts of filth, humiliate religious symbols, and isolate himself from the purity of society. The power he thinks he has is an illusion. He can cause a husband to hate his wife, yes, but he cannot find peace in his own heart. He can break a home, but he can never build one. He is destructive, never constructive. The focus on the separation of spouses appears again here, emphasizing the social dimension of this evil. Why is the devil so obsessed with divorce? There is a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that paints a terrifying picture of the unseen world. He tells us that Iblis, the chief of the devils, places his throne upon the water and sends out his armies to corrupt humanity. The devils return to him to report their deeds. One says, I made so-and-so steal. And Iblis says, you have done nothing. Another says, I made so-and-so drink wine. And Iblis says, you have done nothing. But then a devil comes and says, I did not leave him until I separated him from his wife. Iblis brings this devil close to him, embraces him and says, you have done well. This is the chilling reality. The destruction of the family is the crown jewel of the devil's work because it destroys the future generations. A broken home leaves children vulnerable, weak, and easier to corrupt. The magic of Babylon was the ultimate tool for this social dismantling. So, when the Quran addressed the people of Medina, it was warning them, do not be like the people of Babylon. Do not trade your faith for this destructive tool. The warning was not just for the Jews of that time, but for the Muslims as well. It was a protective barrier placed around the Ummah. The Prophet made it clear that whoever goes to a fortune teller or a soothsayer and believes in what he says has disbelieved in what was revealed to Muhammad. The door was slammed shut. There is no white magic in Islam. There is no good sorcery. It is all from the same poisonous well that was dug in Babylon. Yet, despite this clarity, the test remains. We live in a world today that is perhaps even more obsessed with the occult than Babylon was. We see it in the media, in the subtle normalization of horoscopes, energy healing and manifesting that bypasses the will of God. The names have changed, but the essence is the same. The desire to control destiny without submitting to the Lord of Destiny. The story of Harut and Marut is not a fossil of the past, it is a living warning. It reminds us that knowledge itself is neutral, but the pursuit of knowledge that acts as a rival to God is the ultimate trap. The angels were the examiners in a cosmic exam hall, and the people of Babylon failed because they looked at the test paper and thought it was the answer key. They fell in love with the means and forgot the end. But there is a final layer to this story, one that offers hope amidst the darkness. If magic is real, if the evil eye is real, if the devils are plotting to separate us and destroy us, then what is the shield? The same Quran that exposed the darkness gave the light to dispel it. The revelation did not just diagnose the disease, it provided the cure. And this cure is not found in counterspells or strange amulets. It is found in the simple, powerful words of the Creator. The power of the Quran is that it does not fight magic with magic. It fights magic with truth. When the truth comes, falsehood perishes, for falsehood is by its nature bound to perish. It is here, in the final chapter of this saga, that we witness the most comforting truth of all. The test of Babylon was severe, but Allah never leaves his servants without a weapon. To show us that no one is immune to the trials of this world, not even the best of creation, Allah allowed the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to experience the pain of this darkness firsthand. A man named Labid bin al-Asam, a sorcerer driven by deep hatred, managed to steal a comb containing the Prophet's hair. With this he tied 11 knots on a string, breathing evil into each one, and hid it under a rock inside a deep well called Zawan. The effect was immediate and heavy. The Prophet, who was the strongest of men, began to feel a weight he could not explain. He would think he had done something when he had not. It was a period of intense physical and mental heaviness, a vulnerability that showed his humanity. Imagine the distress of the Sahaba, seeing their beloved leader in pain, unable to find the source. But unlike the people of Babylon who ran to demons for help, the Prophet turned only to the one who controls the demons. He made dua. He asked Allah for the cure, and the answer came not from the earth, but from the 7 heavens. 2 angels descended, not Harut and Marut this time, but Jibril and Mikael. They sat by him, revealing the location of the spell and the nature of the sickness. To break this dark grip, Allah revealed 2 surahs that would become the ultimate fortress for every believer until the Day of Judgment, Surah Al-Falah and Surah An-Nas. The Prophet sent Ali to the well. They found the water looking like henna, dark and stagnant. They pulled out the string with the 11 knots, As the Prophet recited each verse of these new surahs, a knot untied itself. One by one, the shackles of magic fell away. With every verse, the heaviness lifted until the last knot was undone and the Prophet stood up, completely energized, as if he had been released from being tied up. This is the end of the lesson of Babylon. Harut and Marut taught the world that magic is a test of faith, a dangerous cliff that leads to ruin. That the story of the Prophet teaches us that the Quran is the safety net. The magic of Babylon relies on fear, on secrets, on the terrifying unknown. But Islam is open, clear, and full of light. The sorcerer needs the darkness of the night to work his evil, but the believer needs only the light of the dawn, al-Falak, to shatter it. So, the next time you feel the whisper of fear, or hear the stories of the unseen that chill your bones, remember the two angels of Babylon. Remember that they were merely a question posed by God. Will you trust in my power, or will you seek power from my creation? The people of Babylon failed. The people of Medina failed. But you, armed with the book of Allah and the sunnah of his messenger, have the answer key in your hands. Do not fear the magician, fear the one who created the magician, and you will never be harmed.